Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the Garage Gym Life podcast. My name is John Greaves III. I am the founder of Garage Gym Life. Thank you guys for spending part of your Friday morning with me. Remember, you do not have to watch this. You can actually just listen to it. So if you are at work trying to crank out those last few projects before the weekend starts, you can turn this on, have it in the background, and keep on working. We're not going to be putting up anything on screen that you have to turn and look at, although we will be referring to a lot of things. Anyway, we are almost out of the month of January, and we have a fair amount of you guys who have made resolutions for the new year. Some of you are sticking to them, and some of you are starting to get discouraged. And so today we're going to give you guys some help, because I think the missing key might be your nutrition. And so I have joining me here today, my guest is Pia Marangoni from Fiercely Fueled Nutrition. Pia is a strength athlete, so she's not just a diet coach or nutrition coach. She's also a strength athlete, so she has walked in your shoes. She understands what it means to have to try to get stronger, and also you're trying to lose weight. And she understands that, she's got a family, she's got a husband, so she knows how to work around all of the things like, hey, I don't want to have my special food when I go to Christmas dinner or whatever. So she understands all that, and I cannot wait to dive into all of that stuff. All right. Pia, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Hey, good morning, John. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And you are the best hype man ever. You make me sound really good. So thank you so much.
You are a star. So,
Oh.
I mean, I'm really excited about this because we were talking a little bit before we started about some of the questions. And I think we're going to be asking some questions today that most of the people who are watching will not have heard anybody ask, or at least not asked in terms of a nutrition setting. So if you guys are watching this and you have a question, and and you're like, I don't know if John's going to ask this question, or you just have a question, go ahead and put that question in the chat, and I will see the question. If you're watching on Twitter or X, I won't be able to see that. So what you need to do is go to Garage Gym Life on YouTube, and you'll need to put that question in the YouTube comments. I will try to check Twitter to see if I see any comments, but the software we're using doesn't give me your live comments from Twitter. But if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook, you go ahead and put your comments in the live stream chat. I will see those comments. And so if you guys see me looking over this way, it's because I'm looking for comments to make sure that we don't skip anybody. And then if you're watching this on replay, don't worry. You can still put your comments in the video comments, and I will pass those questions on to Pia, and then she will come and she'll answer them for you guys. So we'll get you all set up, because we want you guys to succeed. All right. So I am all set to go. And now, look, this is a fair warning. This is my deload week. So no pre-workout for me today. All right. But I do have my BCAAs here in my ice shaker. I'm ready to go. I got these right here. These number 1 BCAAs. I got them in my ice shaker. I am ready to go. Okay. So hopefully. All right. So Pia, if I start to like, you keep me going. All right. No
I'll
caffeine.
tell you to eat.
No caffeine.
Send you some carbs. Oh.
All right. I have no caffeine today. All right.
Living on the edge today.
That's right. All right.
Okay,
So let's jump into the first question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's just jump into the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what's the number one misconception that you find about diet coaching?
I think it's that people think there is like something magic about dieting, is that if you follow a particular diet or you do this secret thing, you're going to lose weight. The biggest misconception is there is a secret thing. There is no secret thing. There is no easy way. There is no best diet, if you want to call it that. It's all about kind of decoding what works for you. So the biggest misconception is probably that there is like a better way of doing things. But the second biggest thing is that it has to be hard and super restrictive, that if you're not cutting out major food groups and not drinking alcohol or eating chocolate or having dairy, then it's, you're not dieting. So maybe that's two misconceptions. Not very good at keeping in the lanes, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be super restrictive, and there is no magic pill, I suppose. I mean, there are magic pills, but that's not what we're talking about.
I like that you said that people think that if you're not on something to change how your body looks, you're not on a diet. And specifically, if you're not trying to lose weight or you're not cutting out something you enjoy, it's not a diet. But a diet is basically just what you eat. It's just
Yeah,
whatever you're eating
exactly,
regularly. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So with that being said, you do have a lot of people who come to you, and sometimes everything's not a good fit.
Mm,
No matter how experienced the coach is, no matter how motivated the client is, sometimes it's almost like a marriage. It has to fit for
Definitely,
it to
definitely
work.
like a marriage. Yeah,
So
it's a relationship. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So tell me, for anybody who's watching this who may be interested, number one, go through some what Fiercely Feel Nutrition does, and then tell me what your ideal client looks like.
Okay, that's a great question. So, to start off, Fiercely Fueled Nutrition was established to support primarily strength athletes in terms of their nutrition. The founder, Kristen Lander, identified a gap in the market some years back when she was training for Olympic weightlifting, trying to fuel her body, and looking at what was kind of acceptable at the time, the practices that come from primarily the bodybuilding industry, and going, there's got to be something better than this. Because if you look at the objectives of what you're trying to achieve when you're doing bodybuilding and what you're trying to achieve when you're a strength athlete in any domain of competitive strength sports, the difference is one is fueling, is driving a physique, an aesthetic, and the other one is driving performance. And while both kind of sets of people are looking quite jacked and quite muscular, the requirements are very different. And when I started out, that's how I ended up with Kristen. I started working with a bodybuilder, and there is, I'm not trashing bodybuilding, but the aim there is to build an aesthetic, to build a physique, not necessarily to perform. I know it takes a lot of dedication to go into the gym, to work, to adhere to our diet. Their diets are generally very strict, very restrictive, very calibrated, but also, like most instances, for a very specific period of time. They will have a show, they will get on stage, and then they'll kind of have an off season, and that's a whole other discussion. But on the stage, you're flexing. I understand that's quite tough. And then you walk off the stage. You don't have to function in the realm of performance. You don't have to be aware of competitors. You don't have to bring your best effort to the gym. Imagine, you have to 1 rep max your deadlift, your squats, or whatever strength sport you're over. Your clean and jerk, and like you're dehydrated and you're so dizzy you don't even know what's going on. So there was a bit of a gap between what strength athletes were doing and what support was available to them. There's lots of information around for runners and endurance athletes, but anyway, that's going back to the origins of Fiercely Fueled Nutrition. And Kristen looked at this and said there must be a better way, and there is a better way. So we kind of have our roots, our foundations in strength sport, but work with a range of athletes. So going to our ideal clients is anyone who wants to improve performance. We work primarily with people who do resistance training, but not exclusively. I do work with professional boxers, with ice skaters, with marathon runners, but our ideal clients is anyone who wants to perform their best in every domain of their life. So be it in the boardroom, be it on the platform, be it, in the ice rink, we can help you train harder, recover better, and perform better in every domain of your life.
So following up from that, you guys, and I specifically remember I posted this, I shared this on here on YouTube, but you were talking about where the athlete is in their competitions, in their competition year.
Mm,
You said, well,
mm.
are you just training for health, or are you 5 weeks out from
mm,
a competition? And then if you are 5 weeks out, do you want to just participate in this event? Like say some people run a 5K and they don't really care about winning. They just want to be able to finish.
mm,
Or do you want a podium? So, okay, well, do you want to stand? Do you want to be place? And that would be somebody, maybe they're competing in a powerlifting meet, or Olympic lifting meet or something like that. Um, so my question is, do you guys do year round coaching?
mm,
So you say, okay, I'm gonna, because I think that's the biggest thing. And this even goes back to the bodybuilding thing you said, where it's like, um, I think that the way the bodybuilders eat most of the time is good, is good for a general strength athlete who's just, not interested in, like, they're in their off season. If you eat like a bodybuilder and you're in your off season and you eat like an off season bodybuilder, you're probably okay. But the problem, I think, comes in when we try to copy what a bodybuilder does to get ready for competing on the stage,
mhm.
and then try to use that to compete
Exactly.
in wrestling
Yes.
or track and
Yeah. Yeah.
field or powerlifting or anything, because they're actually depleting their bodies of nutrients for a certain look.
Mm.
But anyway, so my question is, so do you work with people year round?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'll always say, there's a book that, I wish I always said this, but there's a book, I think it's called, the work you do in the dark lets you shine in the lights.
Okay.
I actually think that's the title of the book. But for me, this is it. We can still dial things in like a couple of weeks out, but there's not much we can do a month out of competition other than fine tune things. The real magic happens all year round.
In the
It's
off
what you
season.
do. Well, like, I mean, my kind of, I would the kind of argue is that there's never really an off season. There's just like a
Hmm.
peak season and a not peak season. But
Okay.
yeah, like you're alluding to the fact that getting, a competition is a very set point in time, and it's almost like checking your bank account and going, well,
Hmm.
let me take stock, let me see. It's not the be all or end all of how strong you are, because there's lots of things that can affect your competitive result, but you want to bring your best self to the platform, and your best self is the culmination of everything that you have done in every single day prior to that. So today's actions, today's breakfast, today's BCAs will ultimately play out on that platform. So what we do now, 6 weeks out, 6 months out, a year out, will affect that performance. And that's really, for me, where the magic happens. Because if we can get people slightly improving the quality of their nutrition, improving the quality of their training, improving their recovery a year out, and they keep doing that, you're definitely going to have a better competition. And the last few weeks, yeah, we definitely do sometimes just help athletes with the accountability, and there are some nuances in helping people make weight if they are very close to their weight class. Yeah, so we do both, but I really think the magic happens further out from competition.
I think that's interesting because, powerlift. So I competed in powerlifting. That's my most recent competitive outlet, and I remember thinking about it like, powerlifters a lot of times don't think about physique, recomposition,
Mhm,
and the reality is, what we do basically is, we let's say we do a water cut, and we'll talk about water cuts later on, but let's say we do a water cut. So we make our weight class. Then after the competition is over, the meet is over, we basically just go back to eating the way we were. We say, well, I need to get
mhm,
stronger. And a lot of times we don't actually add muscle. We may add a little bit of muscle, but we really just get bigger. And then we cut that weight
right.
again and try to get in the same weight class. Or we say, well, I just need to move up a weight class so I'll be stronger. When the reality is that, if you look at, and I remember this standing out to me because I was at a meet and I was looking at three guys and we all made weight. So and it's, because you've competed in powerlifting, it shows you what the person actually weighed in at. Okay.
Mhm.
For the purposes of like dots or whatever. And I remember looking and I said, all these people weighed 165 pounds, but they looked dramatically different because 165 pounds at 10% body fat looks very different than 165 pounds at 25 or 30% body fat.
Right, right,
And so the more
right.
muscle you have, the more functional mass you have that can help you do
Mhm.
what it is you need to do, which is, I guess, the reverse of if you're a sprinter or whatever. But I mean, to me, it's about trying to have as much functional muscle as possible or functional weight as possible, as opposed to
Mm.
just weighing under the weight class limit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes perfect sense. It's and that's kind of why we have weight classes, just to sort of even the odds. But you'll see, like, I notice it with especially with the heavier men's weight classes. Is there's a really big difference between the 120-kilo men. Some of them are absolute beasts, and some of them are not. And that might be a function of being too new to powerlifting, but you can weigh in at 120 kilos, or whatever weight class. This could apply to any weight class, and be 30% body fat. And someone who's really kind of half your height but much leaner could outlift you, because they are just
Yeah.
packing
Because they're
pure
more muscular
muscle.
than you are.
Yeah, and they're better
You weigh
able
the
to
same, but they're
express.
more muscular than you. Yeah. Okay.
That's why, yeah. I mean, that for me, I always look at the beginning, the smaller weight classes. For me, there is nothing more impressive than a 47-kilo female lifter. It's just, if you think of these women, and even the smaller men, but are really lifting 2 to 3 times their body weight, what they're moving is
Mhm.
phenomenal relative to their size. Go check it out. It's just, I think it is the most underrated. The 47-52 women. They're insane.
Oh yeah, I think I tend to watch a lot of live streams. A lot of times it's because I'll be up late at night working, and I'll have it on in the background. And so I tend to watch live streams from other parts of the world. So like I see the Asian games, or I see things like that. And yeah, you're right. It's like the lighter weight classes are always very interesting, because you see the weight that they're moving, and you just say, oh wow, because they don't have the luxury a lot of time. I mean, they're usually very, naturally leaner anyway, but they don't have the luxury of having excess body weight, a lot of body
Mm,
fat, if they want to make their weight class. So
mm,
yeah, I
mm.
I agree 100%. Um,
Yeah.
because I'm like, let's say your coach tells you, just to make it real, let's say your coach tells you, all right, you need to strengthen your upper back to help you not fall over in the squat. Okay, well, if you are strengthening your upper back, you're going to put muscle on in your upper back. Well, if you add muscle, you just gain weight.
Yeah.
So now you may have gained out of the weight class. But if you can remove some body fat, and now you have room to add the muscle that you need to help you perform better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone complained about more muscle ever.
No, not at all.
No, so, but it's also going to happen that muscle has a higher metabolic demand. So it is metabolically active. It's more metabolically active than fat. So if you had to put on muscle, you would, if you didn't change anything and you kept your food intake the same, you would probably lose body fat, just because you're requiring more energy to sustain that muscle mass. So, and this is what we talk about, sort of being in maintenance, where you don't have to do anything drastic to improve physique alongside performance goals. Because I had somebody say to me, I'd actually just like to look bad. Do you mind? And I'm like, I am there for all of it. Like, it's not to say that people should not have physique goals, or that powerlifters shouldn't. If that's what you want, we are there for all of it. But they don't have to, like, they can be interdependent. At some point, you'll have to just decide, well, do I want to look a certain way, or do I want to prioritize performance? We might need to make a bit of a trade-off, but neither of those are wrong. And I always say to people, it's your body, you have to live in it, you need to be happy. So we've just got to understand the trade-offs that we're making in order to get to this goal in a particular time frame, if we want to make trade-offs. So yeah.
So one thing I've seen people do multiple times since I started exercising back in 1993, um, is people like to take whatever diet is popular at the time, and they'll apply it to their situation. So, just what is your take on some of the popular diet approaches, like carnivore, vegan, uh, pescatarian, intermittent fasting? Let's see what else I got. Intuitive eating. What is your take on these different methods that people like to use in order to, because like you said, people feel like they need to be on a diet in order to be making a
Mm,
change, especially at this time of the year, with the
mm.
New Year's resolution. So, what's your take on those popular diet approaches?
Um, I think they're popular diet approaches. And, I think they gain popularity because of, it's difficult to say, like I'm not pro or anti anything. If it's something you can do, but that is really the caveat for me is that um, can you live this way? Can you be keto, or can you cut out you know all red meat and eat only fish as your protein source for the next 10 years? Can you see yourself doing it for the next 10 years? And if the answer is no, then I would argue that it's not going to be helpful, because you may see some short-term benefit, but if you don't change your habits, if you don't build a solid foundation, and you can't live like this, you're kind of just going to be spinning your wheels. And often what happens with a lot of these kind of popular diets is they gain popularity, people have initial success, and then they're like, well, this is really restrictive. So when we start cutting out huge amounts, well, huge groups of nutrients, or cutting out entire food groups, then I would say that starts becoming a little bit unhealthy and a little bit unsustainable. If it's something, let's say, for example, you're lactose intolerant and you genuinely cannot digest lactose, that's not what I'm talking about, because you kind of are going to be very uncomfortable as you go through life if you eat lactose, or gluten, or whatever it is. But oftentimes these work in the short term because you're restricting food intake in a way. And in a very simplistic
You mean
terms, if
like your
you want to
calories are
lose.
going down?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're just not eating that thing. So people are like, well, I'm gluten intolerant. Well, maybe, but maybe you're just not eating like 6 slices of bread,
Okay. Yeah.
which is kind of pushing you over your thing. So, my answer to that is always, well, it really depends. Actually, keto is good for some people in certain instances, but for the majority of the population, the majority of the time, I find a less restrictive, more balanced approach is going to give better results in the long term.
Okay.
So,
Uh,
yeah, it's not a straightforward answer,
well,
if that
no, I
makes
mean, I
sense.
asked it because you have like you said, is it something that you can do sustainably? And so let's say something like 75 hard. It obviously, because people are going to say, well, a lot of people wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work. And so something like 75 hard, which is not technically a diet, I find it, or any 12-week transformation program, it can work.
Mhm.
But to me, the danger is that once it's over, you do your 12 weeks, then there's this rebound because you didn't actually change how you
Exactly.
normally eat.
You didn't
Instead,
change your
you
habits.
you just subtracted a bunch of stuff that you really like. You
Mm.
reached your goal, and now you're going to
Mm.
go back and eat the stuff you really like, and you're going to go back to where you
Exactly.
were. Does that make sense?
But exactly right. Exactly right. You've got it. And how about we figure out a way of helping you lose weight and eat the stuff you really like at the same time? How
Uh,
cool will that be? Because we can. The moment if I say to you, John, don't think of a pink elephant, what are you thinking of now? You're thinking of
Pink
a pink
elephants.
elephant.
Yeah.
Right. And now this pink elephant is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The more you deny it, the more you're going to want it. And the moment you're free from this 12-week challenge, you just,
I
most
can't
people, I
wait to
mean,
have pink elephant. Yeah.
it. So, okay, how about we say, if you just say, okay, you can have pink elephants as much as you want, but you just got to make an informed choice about the rest of the stuff that you're going to eat. And now it kind of loses its power, because you're like, oh, okay, I can have this thing. Like if you tell children, don't do this, I mean, they're going to do it, right?
Right.
I mean,
That's what they
well,
want
it
to do
depends on the parents, but
immediately.
right? Or like, don't stick your finger in there. It's exactly where the
Immediately.
finger
That's what they
goes.
want to. Yeah.
So, there's a bit of like sort of psychology happening as well, in terms of saying, like, people will say to me, I'm not ready to give up cheese. And I'm like, hey, good, because I wouldn't ask you to. So let's figure out a way of incorporating things you like in a more sustainable way, in a healthier way. How about instead of taking nutrition, like food away, let's add nutrition to what you're eating. And
Huh.
and people get really surprised. Like, you want to have a cupcake for breakfast? Cool. Can we add some fiber? Can we add some nutrients to that? So can we add some Greek yogurts and some berries and some nuts? And now you've got healthy fat, you've got protein, you've got fiber, you've got nutrients, and you've got a muffin. Hey, everybody's winning,
Right.
And I find that approach is far more productive and sustainable than kind of, like restricting things. Although that does work. I mean, some people
I
they
mean,
need
sometimes you
that.
just need to build discipline. You need, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think though
So
that's the
you,
advantage of having a coach, because it's very difficult. Just like it's difficult to program for yourself in terms of knowing which exercises to do, it's
Mhm.
difficult to program your diet for yourself,
Oh,
because
yeah,
all we know is, okay, I shouldn't eat that and let me just stop, right? And I mean, I know that there are strategies like I have a friend who really likes the plate method. So he takes the
yeah,
plate, he takes his hand, he says, okay, this much of the plate can be this, and this much of the plate can be this, or whatever. Okay. But you don't see people at restaurants with the plate doing this, right? Because it's just something that's a learned behavior. And I
mm,
think having someone who can be accountable, who you can be accountable to, can help you. But more than that, they can help you be like a sounding board. Like, you say, okay, um, we've got, this is my normal plan, but hey, I've got to go to a wedding in 6 weeks. So I want to really look good for, I know we have a plan, but I want to look good for this wedding. I'm going to be in a tuxedo. I haven't seen these people in 10
yeah.
years. I want to look good. My ex is going to be there. I want him to feel bad that we broke up. Right? So,
Yeah,
um,
they must regret it.
exactly. Um, so do you work with people to say, hey, look, I'm going to help you, this is a blip, but remember, we're gonna get
Absolutely.
back on track. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I mean, like sometimes people will, we'll have like a hard stop, if you want to call it that. There will be a competition. But I do have lots of clients who have, I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 right now who are going to be at weddings in April, right? I think it's a good time for weddings in the US, April, because there's a few of them. But that actually can work really well for us because it kind of gives you the drive to try things a bit more, to be a bit more open to change and changing your behavior. So those situations actually can be really helpful in helping us build the foundations that we want. It's not to say that we have to have but some people, I'll say, what, it's your daughter's wedding. The last thing I want you to be doing is measuring your chicken portions on your hand at your daughter's wedding. Do me
That's
a
right.
favor, forget about it, have fun at the wedding, we'll talk on like next week, whatever. So again, there is a time and a place. Sometimes and I'll be guided by the clients. If that's what they want, then I'll support that. If they just want to be present in the moment, I also think there is a time and a place for that. There's a time and a place just to be with these important people in your life. And because your kids are not going to remember that time you ate food. I mean, they're not going to, they'll remember, you don't want them to remember that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So time and place, right? You're not like, maybe if you go for tacos every Thursday with your friends, maybe you need to be a bit mindful. But special occasions, we collaboratively decide what the client, we'll put strategies in place for that. Whether, yeah, and also if we want to get to a particular place in 6 weeks, we can be a bit more aggressive on a cut if that's what they want, and then come out of it and then enter another phase. So it's, if I can't help my clients in the context of their life, I'm not helping them. So we have to be able to adapt to whatever's on your calendar and whatever's coming up. Did
I
I answer the
think,
question?
yeah, I think that's huge though, because people will say, okay, well, people will say, oh, well, I went off my diet because I had to go to this. I went out with my friends, as you say. So I went out with friends, and I ate way too much. I got to get back on my diet. So that's always on a Friday night. All right. So then they always say, I got to get back on my diet on Monday, which means Saturday and Sunday are also fair game. right? As opposed to, oh, I had, I splurged a little bit Friday, so I'm back to it on Saturday. Like, okay, right back to the way I was supposed to be eating Saturday. Nobody ever does that. Everybody wants to start on Monday. Everybody
Mm,
says, "Oh, yeah, so I'll get back on my diet on Monday." So what's one meal with friends turns into 12 meals where
mm,
they're all just splurging. Like we always say over here, for like Thanksgiving, it's this, it's this big holiday here in the US, and it's centered around food. Even Christmas isn't centered around food. You have food for Christmas, but the point of Christmas is, people like it's the gifts, that you give. That's how people look at it. At Thanksgiving, it's all about the food. But I've had my friends who are nutrition coaches say it's not the one Thanksgiving meal that gets you, it's the leftovers that you're going to eat afterwards, where you keep on eating that way,
mm, mm.
3 straight days of too much cranberry dressing is not good for you. You know what I mean? Um, and that's just one of the things I think of. Oh, I was thinking of when you said you work with the client. You say, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't do this." Like you find options because even when you said you're going like with friends every third, for tacos, right? You mentioned in one of your posts that you have to learn to make deals with people. Like you said that you have a thing with your husband where you're like, hey, look, I can you might be having lamb chops and I'm having chicken breast. You just make the deal. Is that
Mm,
something that you
mm.
coach your clients to do?
It's well, if they need to, right? Like, it's not that I never have the lamb chops. I just don't have them 4 times a week. Again,
Right.
it's
You hate lamb. We
it.
heard it. Yeah, we heard you say
No, I love lamb. That's the problem. That's the problem.
it.
But like, does it support my goals? No. But the thing is, again, if we go back right to the beginning, it's about what can I do for the rest of my days. Now, if Thursday night tacos is a thing with you and your friends and it's important, got to learn to work with that. So we'll kind of figure something out about,
So would you make
okay,
adjustments
well,
on the rest of the days, or maybe for that day, say I know I'm going for tacos tonight,
potentially,
so the rest of the day
potentially.
I'm gonna okay.
Yeah, potentially, like it depends again on the client and how important it is to him. Often in these situations, it's there might be a few drinks, and that's where things get a bit tricky. Is okay, I'm going to have 1 drink or 2 drinks. I'll track them, but after 2 drinks, you're very relaxed and you're hopefully having a fantastic time. And then it just becomes really easy just to let things tumble, right? And then you wake up, you're
Mm,
feeling terrible, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've gone off my like. I say to my clients, the only way you can fail that, like I failed at my diet, is very kind of binary thinking, right? So think on a continuum. Think on, like if you failed at your diet, that means you would have eaten nothing at all. That's the only way you can fail at food, is just not eating it at all. And you ate food. So good. Was it helpful to get you towards your goals? Now that is a different discussion. And that's something we can talk about, because some people will be so adherent to a diet that they will never go out, they will never see friends, they will bring salad and chicken breast to Thanksgiving
yeah, yeah,
for no other reason other they want to adhere to a diet. And I would argue that's unhealthy.
right.
If we don't need to do that, why are you doing it? I think again, it's a context and time and place about, well, if you only go out every 3 months and these are friends from overseas, go out, have the tacos, have fun, we'll deal with it. If
Right.
this is your regular thing with the guys, well, let's figure out a better way of supporting you through that, and making some adjustments, or accepting that we may need to take a bit more time to get to your goal. And that's also fine. That's really okay. Also to try and help clients understand that one meal is not going to make or break you, like you said, right? It's not the Thanksgiving. It's not even, I would even say, it's not even the 3 days of cranberry sauce. It's what happens between Christmas and the next Thanksgiving that
Mm.
is going to be a bigger determinant. So don't do the nutrition equivalent of getting a flat tire and then slashing the other 3 tires, you know?
So so I feel like we're doing a lot of talking about Thanksgiving, but I'm gonna keep
Oh,
doing it.
oh,
I'm
maybe,
gonna keep
maybe
doing it
someone
though.
will invite me one day.
Yeah, hey, that's right. I mean, this way, maybe somebody will be watching this at Thanksgiving because it'll still be up on YouTube
Oh,
that Thanksgiving
well,
comes around.
you never
But
know.
I also like the idea of having a range. So, like thinking of an athlete, I used to tell my kids, because a lot of my kids wrestled, and I said, what we're gonna do instead of you just cutting weight is let's find the body weight where you feel the strongest and you perform at your best. And if you need to cut down to get to the next weight class because your team needs you to, sure. But for the most part, you just basically you're not having to make weight, so you're not exhausted the morning of meet.
Mm.
Maybe you skip breakfast that morning, or not. You can't skip breakfast.
Well,
Maybe you don't eat early because they have to weigh in, so you don't eat until after you weigh in. But most of the time, you just walk around at the body weight where you perform at your absolute best. But I one of the people who I really admire for this is LL Cool J, and he said when someone I remember reading an article with him, and he said they asked him, "Well, how much do you weigh?" And he said, "I weigh between 190 and 205." And he said the reason is 190 is if I know I'm going to be taking pictures. 200, I'm comfortable.
mm,
205, it's the holidays and I went to someone's house and they're cooking and I know I'm going to be doing that kind of stuff. I give myself the grace to put on a little bit of weight, but I know that I'm going to go back down to 200, and from 200 I can get to 190, from 190 if I have to go, or from 200 I can also go up to
mm,
205. And I
mm.
think that there's value in that because to me it kind of goes with what you're saying. It's like you have like this is your normal, your mean, and then you also have the flexibility to know, okay, this event's coming up, because realistically we know when Christmas is.
Right.
You can plan for Christmas. I know this may shock people, but you can actually plan for Christmas. It's coming
You can.
again this year, right? So if you're in really good shape on December 23rd, whatever you eat on December 25th is not going to kill you. It's not going to kill your
Absolutely
goals,
not. No, it
you know?
absolutely won't.
Um,
No. And
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, well, I was think of it this way, is like think of it as almost like a nutrition deload, if you want to, like a
Oh,
pivot, because we don't train at max capacity all the time.
right.
And I also think, it's going to be really difficult and maybe unsustainable to be dialed in every day, all the time. So, we do need to take holidays. We do need to enjoy vacations. We do need to enjoy. We're going to get to this, like religious um, and cultural holidays in the context with, however we want to celebrate them. For some people, Christmas is not a thing. Some
Right.
people it's a huge thing.
You may
And
have Ramadan.
that
You may,
exactly,
yeah.
right. Now, how do we support someone through the fasting month? How do you support athletes? Well, we can do anything. It's just about knowing what's coming up and being a bit kind of curious and planning a bit for it. But also understanding that food is so much more than nutrients. Food is it's food for our bodies, it's socializing, it's religion, it's culture, it's ethnicity. There's so much more to a meal than just the constituents on the plate. Oftentimes, I'm sure you will see something and it'll bring back really powerful childhood memories,
Mm,
or you'll be like, what do we associate with Thanksgiving? Obviously a turkey and cranberry sauce and Christmas cake. And for me, like, my parents are Italian, and on New Year's Eve, they have this really disgusting sausage called the cotechino. But this is something that always reminds me of my father with lentils. It's a very traditional Italian thing to have at Christmas. So there is so much more to food than just food, and we actually do, as coaches, need to work with the entire client and not just like this narrow slice of John sitting in front of me. you
right.
know um, and then you've got likes and dislikes, and what do you believe is what are your beliefs as a person? Maybe you don't want to eat animal products because you have a certain belief, or whatever. We can
Right.
Nothing is right or wrong, but there is so much ingrained in what we eat that we don't even realize, that kind of factor into how successful we can be. So we've got to work with that.
And I mean that I guess that also goes to adherence, because like you were bringing up the cultural and the religious thing. One of the questions I had for you was there's a void that I've seen So I'm from West Africa. I was born in Liberia,
Mm.
and there's a void
Mhm.
that I've seen. Anytime I go on a diet to lose weight, um, and I say, especially if I get someone to write up a diet plan for me. It's been years since I've done that, but let's say I say, hey, write up this thing, a meal plan for me. I need to lose this many pounds or whatever. Um, it never includes the foods that I grew up eating and loving,
Mm.
the traditional foods from West Africa. And for a long time, we were just conditioned to believe that those foods are unhealthy. But then my mind would rebel against it because I see so many people from Liberia who are in great shape who never have come to the States who eat
Mm.
just those foods. And I'm like, well,
Right.
they look great. All right. How is it that you're telling me I
Yep.
can't have this and they look great? Or I love Ethiopian food. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is
Indira. Yeah.
that's very, very dense. You can't eat a lot of it. But
Mm.
Ethiopians are very slender people. So I'm like, so
Mm.
how come I can't eat it if everybody is they all
Well,
look
you can
great?
absolutely eat it.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I think it's just understanding, well, like, well, can you give me an example, like, of what, you would eat? Like, what reminds you of home? I'm just trying to think now.
Oh, okay,
Like, I
so
know that West Africa is a lot of cassava or plantain,
yeah,
fried
okay.
bananas, that kind of thing. I don't know. Tell me what you missed. Then we can
Okay,
figure it out.
so one of the foods that this is like if I could eat this every day, and it's called potato greens and rice.
Mhm.
Now, the closest analog that Westerners will probably find is you can fry spinach. And it's funny because kids over here don't like spinach. And it's like, all right, well, in Liberia, and you never have to make kids eat spinach because it's like great, right? So you fry the spinach with palm oil,
Right.
and you include so there's chicken, uh, baked chicken. You cook the chicken in there, and then you have beef. You may have some people may have shrimp, and there's a lot of different seasonings, and then you have that with rice. It could be, whatever. I think the last time I had it with basmati rice. It can be whatever kind of rice you
Mm.
want, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of long grain rices.
Mhm.
And I could literally eat that all of the time. But if I go to if I'm on a meal plan, they always remove that. And they say, well, you can have it steamed, but you can't have it fried. I'm like, well, it tastes all right, steamed, but it tastes great fried. All right. So I'm having
Yeah.
a problem here, So that's it. One example. Are you familiar? I don't know. Do you guys have probably not, but jollof rice? Have you familiar with jollof?
No, yeah, I am. So jollof rice is a very, like, from my experience, I have been, so Liberia is one of the countries I haven't been to, but I've been to Senegal,
Okay.
Ghana,
Yeah, they all have their
Angola,
own variations of it.
there,
Yeah, we have the correct one,
Djibouti.
but they have their variations of it.
I will tell my Nigerian friend she is
You tell them
wrong.
I said it.
And
Give them my email address. I will argue with
I,
them. Our jollof
yeah.
rice is better. Right.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I'm there for, I will taste them all
there
of
you
them.
go.
But
But it's so for anyone who's watching this who's not familiar with it, jollof rice would be like jambalaya. It's kind of like jambalaya. I see my Josh Osborne is watching, and he's a strength athlete. He said, "Great topic." Josh, if you have a
Mm,
question, man, go ahead, throw that question in here, and
yeah,
I will make sure I answer it.
yeah.
But so jollof rice for Americans, it's kind of like jambalaya. But go ahead.
It's
What were you gonna say?
delicious. It's
Oh yeah.
really delicious,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. And what I love about these, and why are people in Liberia not overweight? Because they eat, we have a similar thing here in South Africa. It's called Moro. It's like a spinach kind of, I think the Liberian version sounds actually even more delicious. But for me,
It
that
is.
sounds like a
I'm just
fantastic meal.
I'm just
You've
kidding.
got you got I'll have to taste that. But you've got
Okay.
vegetables, you've
Yeah.
got a good protein source, you've got a good carbohydrate source. The only thing I would say, kind of traditional people would say, is maybe like not so great is the palm oil. But you know what? We've got to cook it somehow. So it's, for me, it's just about, understanding, well, who's making, what's in it,
Mhm.
because obviously if my mom makes something, it's gonna be 10 times better. It's like lasagna, right? Let's
Right.
do that. There's
Yes.
lasagna,
Yeah.
and there's like lasagna from Walmart. They're not the same
Right.
thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But I always, just to kind of make you feel like just to frame it for you a little bit, is I think the next best thing is good enough in terms of tracking, or just kind of saying, well, I know that I've got some protein that's probably, I don't know, whatever, how much you can kind of make a guess at how much chicken is in there, or, more or less. And you can still stay accountable to that meal, even if you don't make it yourself, or even if it's not using traditional ingredients, because it's only ever a proxy. And this is again something that I work with my clients, is that at best, logging food, weighing food, logging macros is inaccurate, because either we weigh inaccurately, or we eat stuff before we weigh it, or the labels are wrong, or it's at best, it's just it's bringing awareness to what you're eating. It's a level of accountability, it's a proxy, it's a baseline. So if you just treat your what is that dish called with the spinach?
Potato greens. Potato
Oh,
greens.
potato greens. Yeah, right. So if you just use a consistent method of logging it, I would say you're doing the job that you need to do. Is it something that you should potentially eat all day, every day? Well, I don't know. Maybe. Do you like it? Is it easy? Is it doable? Maybe we need to make some adjustments. But I mean, I really don't have a problem with it, because that is still predominantly whole food. And this is the thing. And going back to why are people overweight? Well, I mean, we kind of know, but it's very easy to get food these days. It's very easy to get food that is very convenient, with lots of calories, that tastes delicious, which makes it very easy to overeat in a very short space of time. And we don't move enough. So if you're going to, like, a village in West Africa, those complications don't exist there, in a way.
Yeah.
Everything is home cooked. People are working, or even if you are living in the cities, you're probably commuting a lot on foot.
Yeah.
You're probably not buying this pre-processed you're definitely not. Worst case scenario, you're buying it from the auntie on the side of the road, which is
Yes.
nicely cooked anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the challenge there are a bit different. So I have no problem with that. I think it's wonderful. And you
Yeah,
make me
because
hungry.
I mean, with that stuff, it's like the only thing. This is not something I made up. Okay, it's another like little tip that people gave me, and they said, just for maintenance, it said, in general, eat till you're satisfied, but don't eat until you're stuffed. And I think that even goes back to the holiday thing. At the holidays, what do? We eat so much that we're full and we can't even move. Then we go into a food coma and pass out.
Mm,
Well, if you eat till you're satisfied, and everybody knows when you get to that point, especially if you eat slowly, you get to a point where
yes,
you're full.
exactly.
You're like, okay, I'm
Exactly.
good, but I'm not stuffed. I'm not uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's like the basic thing I do, like with foods that you can't put in my fitness pal. It's like, okay, did I? And oh, and another one. I think this one Jim Wendler said. He said before he goes to any restaurant, he'll just before he eats at a restaurant, he'll just drink a protein shake because then it partially fills him up. And he
Yeah.
says, so then I could eat whatever I want, and I'm not going to overstuff myself with this other stuff because I've already gotten my whatever in for the
Yeah.
day. But we said, well, drink some water before you eat,
Yeah.
and that will
Yeah.
help you with, so if it's something that's like we talked about injera, it's very, very dense. Anything like that is really, really dense. um I want to ask you about this too while we're talking about foods, because you own a coffee business, and
I do.
coffee has caffeine in it. For those who don't know, um,
Mm.
people talk a lot about diet from the standpoint of losing weight and gaining weight, but they don't talk a lot about it as far as the effects of the things you eat on your performance. So, like coffee has, I said, it has caffeine. Um, so if you go on one of those low salt diets, the lack of sodium may affect your performance as an athlete. Um, how do you balance your own goals and your nutritional needs when you work in a business where, I mean, you got to know what the coffee tastes like? If somebody comes in there, they're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
what do you recommend?" You can't say, "Oh, well, the picture on that one looks good. I don't know. I haven't had it." So how do you balance that?
Yeah. It took some effort, because at one point I mean, obviously I have to taste everything, of course.
Of course.
I would never sell anything to someone I haven't tasted, but then I would have to taste the frozen cookie dough every day, and
Mm,
that caught me.
You're like, oh well, let me make
So
sure it's still the same as I remember.
it's honestly like I don't know. It's one of my greatest my toxic guilty pleasure is I love eating frozen cookie dough. I really love it.
Okay.
But you know, I used to go into the shop and just grab one of these little balls from the freezer and just smash it and go, that was delicious. And once another one, and wasn't even aware of what I was doing. So I think it just for me then I ended up drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day. And you know, we can, that's a whole other discussion about how much coffee should you drink. We know that coffee is great for performance, but I like a cappuccino, which is like nice and milky. And you know, that's eventually a liter of milk, which you know, gives you a ton of um energy that probably would have been serving me better if I'd been eating it in food form. So it did catch me actually a while, and it took me some time to kind of like figure out a cadence in terms of, well, how, you know, luckily my team is fantastic, and they know how to produce food consistently well. It's not, we don't do a lot of food, so maybe that's a saving grace. But I know that I can't go in there on a Saturday morning when I'm hungry, when they're baking the almond croissants, because I'm setting myself up to smash one in my face without being conscious of it. But that is a key part of, you know, helping people succeed with dialing in their nutrition is, and what you said is, you know, we don't like, I'm just trying to think of how to phrase this in a way that doesn't sound like disordered. But if you know you're going out for dinner or going to your friend's house, the environment plays a huge role in what you
Mm,
eat. So if you're hungry, and you're really hungry because you've been saving up all your calories for that meal, or you walk into your coffee shop, you haven't had a thing to eat, and you're still half asleep because you haven't had your coffee. It's kind of the perfect storm, because now you're hungry and you've got this thing in front of you that's
mm,
got tons of calories, and it like really wants you to eat it because these foods are made to be delicious. Um, it's very hard to intervene in the moment, you know. So if you can arrive somewhere like not starving, you'll be better positioned to make better food decisions and enjoy your food, you know. If I have my protein shake before I leave the house on a Saturday morning to train at the gym, I can make a conscious decision whether I want to eat that almond croissant or not, versus I'm just so hungry, just get in my mouth, please, you know. And
right.
we have a lot of power over that. And this is what I'd love people to know, is that we can change our response to shoving things in our face without knowing, just by being aware of what our environment is doing, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, one more question as we wrap up. What this is for your clients, you know, for anyone. What do you wish people knew about what you do, but that nobody ever remembers to ask?
Mm. Well, exactly what you've asked is that nothing is off limits, that anything is possible, that you know, we can make good progress in the context of your life. You just need to try. So like, people will say, you know, what's your ideal client? The person who just tries. You don't even have to get it right. I just need you to try, and I just need you to give me feedback, because it's a learning, and you know, it's a co-creation as well. So if we say, okay, well, we're going to try and you know, like, build better habits around, you know, Taco Thursday, well, that's actually Taco Tuesday, and you go and it doesn't happen, tell me, we can figure it out. There's no wrong or right here. So, you know, yeah, people kind of miss the part where they have so much control and so much input in the process. Is like, it's a co-creation, right? um
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So you dropped a lot of information on us. And I want people to be able to take advantage of your services. So tell everybody what the best ways are for them to encounter your content, because you guys have a YouTube channel, and the link for the YouTube channel is going to be in the video description. But you guys have a YouTube channel, you have an Instagram feed where you put clips, you have a newsletter, you got a website. How can people, you may have a Facebook page, how can people reach out to Fiercely Fueled Nutrition
Mm,
if they want to hire you or just want to get more information about your
yeah.
business?
I would say the best place to start would be on Instagram. That's Fiercely Fueled Nutrition on Instagram, or me or any one of my team. I'm Pia Marangoni, Pia_Marangoni on Instagram, or our website, fiercelyfueled.com. We also have a podcast called the Fiercely Fueled Nutrition Podcast on all major platforms. And we do have a YouTube, and I'm working on improving that. So it's not as active as I would like, but it will be soon. Yeah, I think Instagram would be the first point of call, I would say.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with me and sharing all this information with our viewers. And I appreciate all of you guys for stopping by and watching this, whether you watched this live or you watched it on the replay. Remember, drop your comments if you have any follow-up questions for Pia, and we will have her come back and check out the comments so that you can get the answers that you want. Next week, remember, this is a live show that's going to be every week. It's at the same time. So next week, my guest is going to be Sean Donaldson from Bear Steel Equipment, and we're going to be doing a preview of Home Gym Con 2024. I went to Home Gym Con 2023 and it was a lot of fun, but this year is going to be even bigger and better. And this is going to be Sean's first year going to Home Gym Con with Bear Steel Equipment. So we're going to be talking about what he's looking forward to, what he's bringing from Bear Steel Equipment. So you kind of get a sneak peek of any goodies he's bringing to his booth, as well as he's going to be comparing his expectations to what he did when he went to the Arnold Sports Festival. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Please share it with your friends because you guys are going to get a preview of the only expo, the only fitness expo that's specifically for home gym owners. And that's going to be next week on Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.